I was gonna record this with natural daylight, and I was like, okay, record by like 3 p.m. so that you have natural daylight. And then I realized that if I started recording at 3 p.m., the sun was gonna be setting by the time I was done filming. So here we are. It's like 7 p.m. now, and I just have a lamp with no lampshade lighting my face, whatever. 2022 was a pretty good year for me. I got a full-time job, made a whole video about that. It's been awesome. I love my job that I've been working at. Of course, from your perspective, you have probably noticed that I haven't been posting to YouTube very much in 2022. There are several reasons for that, like work and just other like hobbies and stuff that I've been doing in my life. But I will say that one thing that has been very uninspiring for me in 2022 is the place where we're living. It's such a bland apartment. The natural lighting is terrible, so it's like hard to feel motivated to film YouTube videos. Anyway, the reason that I'm ranting about this now is because we're actually moving to a new place soon. So hopefully you'll see more of me once I feel inspired with our new place. Anyway, this is not supposed to be a life update video. I like to do these favorites videos every year for 2 reasons. 1, I just like to go back and rewatch them later and remind myself what things I liked in any given year and just kind of reflect. And 2, I try to make them kind of early December because it's the gift-giving time of year. And maybe as you watch this video, you may see something that I enjoyed that will remind you of something that someone in your life has enjoyed. So that's what I'm gonna be doing today. I have 4 categories on this list. First up, I have shows and movies, books, music, and at the end I have lifestyle, which is also just kind of like miscellaneous. So up first we have shows and movies, and the first movie that I really enjoyed in 2022 was Turning Red. I honestly was not expecting to enjoy Turning Red that much. For some reason I was seeing advertisements for it everywhere, which is weird because I don't see advertisements for movies Oh, it's because we started spending money on YouTube, so we don't get ads anymore. I think that's why. So at the beginning of the year, I was still getting ads for Turning Red, and every time I saw them, I was like, I don't know, it looked a little too silly. Eric and I had this critique of the movie, which was, oh, I just don't like kids movies where the characters are drawn to just be like ugly and that's funny. And like I kind of thought about that for a second, even before watching the movie. I think I kind of reflected on that and I was like, would we be saying that if it were a movie about like 4 guys? By which I mean the characters aren't ugly, I just mean sometimes they make really silly faces. But that was the word we used. And I kind of reflected on that and I was like, maybe that's a little sexist. I don't know, I just decided to give it a try. We were paying for Disney Plus, so it was like, why not? And it was really good. It made me cry at least once. Turning Red is about a little girl named Maylene. She's like an adolescent, like preteen kind of age. If you've seen any of the ads for Turning Red, you know that the premise is that she is like a human, but she turns uncontrollably into this giant red panda. Turns out that entire thing is like a thinly veiled metaphor for puberty. But it's not like all about that. It's definitely not like educational feeling at all. A lot of other nice themes in the movie are female friend group. Oh my goodness, her little friend group is just so wholesome and pure and so preteen girls. Such an underrepresented thing in media. I think we really see preteen girls in media like already acting like teenagers and being so pretty and wearing makeup and being so fashionable all the time. And these girls are awkward and they're allowed to be awkward and it's like adorable. The other big theme is just, it's kind of a joke now that like Disney movies are about generational trauma. This is no exception. This movie really focuses on feeling the need to be perfect for your parents and how that can hurt you and it can hurt future generations, and how Maylene and her mother kind of break this generational curse of striving for perfection and maybe not communicating with family too much. So it's a beautiful message. It's wholesome and sweet. It's a really good movie, and I didn't feel like I saw enough people talking about Turning Red. The second movie that I enjoyed this year was Everything Everywhere All at Once. Again, oh wow! You know, it's crazy these movies and stuff keep coming out, and I'm like, why didn't I see an ad for this? And it's because YouTube is the only thing I watch, and I don't get ads on YouTube anymore. I also found out about Everything Everywhere All at Once through ads on YouTube. And they kept coming up, and Eric and I were like, this looks freaking weird. Let's check it out. And it turns out that it was only in like certain theaters. So we had to drive like an hour to go see Everything Everywhere All at Once. But yeah, it's this movie that's about like multiverse kind of stuff. It's kind of sci-fi, but definitely one of those sci-fi things that I have a video where I kind of rant about how I don't love overextensive lore building. This movie does a great job of just dropping you into this absolutely bonkers world, and they explain the rules that you need to know, and then they don't really go into further detail. They're not gonna go into like quantum mechanics, string theory about why the multiverse exists. All you need to know is the multiverse exists, and this lady can travel between dimensions if she does like certain kind of crazy, quirky, unique things. The point is that it's random and unexpected, and it's hilarious. So between these multiple dimensions, she runs into like a way more kick-butt version of her husband. She runs into like the main villain of the movie, which is her daughter. And it also turns into this like mother-daughter miscommunication kind of moral where, you know, the mother tries to show her love in one way and the daughter just kind of rejects it and expects something different, and the daughter doesn't feel loved. The mother feels like, I'm giving you love, why don't you recognize it? And it's just like, man, I watched like both of these movies in a row and I was like, this is like, I think we watched it around Mother's Day. I was like, this is kind of a Mother's Day movie. It's actiony and funny and just absolutely wild, but at the same time, there are these really emotional moments. It's really good. Oh, by the way, I remember Eric was shocked when I told him that I was also interested in watching this movie because I don't do action, but I quite enjoyed the action scenes in this movie because the Wikipedia article refreshed my memory. It was originally written for Jackie Chan, and the fight choreography there aren't like all these crazy cuts and it's not all over the place. I mean, sure, a little bit, but I feel like the fight scenes are easier to follow, and again, part of the element of the fight scene is doing these silly, crazy things so that you can travel from one dimension to another, so it's a different take on fight scenes, and it makes it entertaining and funny. Okay, and here's a transition. Michelle Yeoh, Star Trek update. If you've watched my past few favorites videos, you already know that Eric and I have been watching through every Star Trek iteration. We have worked on 3 Star Trek series this year. First, we watched Star Trek Enterprise, and I liked Enterprise more than I expected, I think. So Star Trek Enterprise focuses on like the original Enterprise ship. So it is a prequel to everything else that we've seen in the Star Trek universe. Because of this, and also because of the time that this series came out, which is the early 2000s, Enterprise gets kind of a bad rap for being like weirdly patriotic. I do feel like it makes sense because it's the first voyage of the Enterprise. So of course, we can't expect them to be all progressive, and I don't even think like the Prime Directive exists yet. Like, we can't expect them to jump in and be exactly like the next generation. So I think those choices make sense. Does it result in some like weirdly toxic masculinity kind of stuff going on sometimes? Sure, and that is annoying. But in general, I don't know, I just think it makes sense for where we're at, not only in the early 2000s, but like in the progression of the Star Trek series. I do think that for a prequel, they do a pretty good job of making the technology feel decently futuristic from when we're watching it, but not more futuristic than they should be capable of. In the 3rd season, I actually felt like it really hit its stride. They go into this like Delphic expanse, which is this unknown part of space. Who knows what could be lurking around the corner? And I was like, this is what I wanted from Voyager. I wanted this just confusing, unpredictable, there's a different thing every episode. At the beginning of season 3, I was like, this is what I wanted from Voyager. Enterprise is better than Voyager. And then the different thing every episode kind of started wearing off. We got kind of focused on this one specific planet. Then, I can't remember how many seasons there are, but in the last season, they just do this absolutely irritating thing, at least if you are a binge watcher, where they'll have 3 or 4 part episodes. So you'll watch an episode and you'll be like, ah, dang it, it's a 2-parter. Okay, well, we'll watch another one, I guess. And you watch that one and it's like, to be continued, and I'm like, excuse me, stop. And the other thing, so 2 things about that. 1, I'm trying to go to sleep. Stop giving me cliffhangers. 2, in 2022, there's like 2 kinds of shows. There's Stranger Things, Stranger Things specifically. There's like shows that are made to binge watch, where you expect one overarching plot line, and I kind of anticipate things that are maybe going to be cliffhangers, I guess dramas. And then there are older shows, which are more episodic, and you can watch them before bed and you aren't going to be like wondering what's going to happen next. I like to keep those things separate. I like to know what I'm going into. So when I watched Star Trek, I hoped for something episodic, and it started to really get on my nerves. Apparently that was really well received back in the early 2000s, which I think is just because we watched TV differently back then. But yeah, for me now, as a binge watcher, not pleasant. There were some characters that I really enjoyed. I love Hoshi Sato because I am a linguist, and we get to like meet the chick who made the universal translator. She's so cool, and I don't think we focused on her enough. She only had a handful of episodes that were focused on her, which was a huge bummer. I like T'Pol enough. You know, I'm a big Vulcan fan. I love Spock. I feel like T'Pol, she's just your standard Vulcan arc. You know, she starts out really stoic, and you start to see her grow and like express her feelings to the crew, particularly Tucker, who I thought I was not going to like their relationship, but it actually grew on me and they were pretty cute. Yeah, Captain Archer is a macho, patriotic guy, but he's okay. He's all right. I like his dog. There were just like some of these characters like Malcolm and Hoshi that just distractingly did not get very many lines. I really wanted to explore Malcolm's stuff with like growing up on a starship more. I thought that sounded so interesting, and he was almost always cast to the side in like every episode. It was such a bummer. There's not a character that I don't like particularly. It's just that the characters that I was really interested in didn't get as much screen time as I had hoped. So Enterprise was okay. We're now watching Discovery, which I'm liking so far. I honestly was afraid that I wouldn't like Discovery that much because I was afraid that it would have too many overarching plot lines because it's more modern, and that's just what modern TV is like. Eric and I, like every now and then, will just remark that we're like, man, this is so much more episodic than I expected. Yes, there are these overarching plot lines, and I am interested in them. Well, okay, season 2, I did not care about the overarching plot lines. Every time we returned to the overarching stuff, I was like, can we get back to the B plot, please? But in season 3, which is where we're at right now, I'm really enjoying the overarching stuff and the more episodic plot lines. But yeah, everything can be decently self-contained. It doesn't end on too bad of a cliffhanger. Every episode feels like it has a decent resolution, but maybe there are still some questions that you're like, I hope that gets answered in the next episode or the episode after that, or even the episode after that, right? It's not so much like a cliffhanger, like, give me the next episode now. It's just like, I'm a little curious about what's going to happen in future episodes. At first, I felt like I didn't like the character work that much on Discovery. I don't know. Do I still stand by that? I guess the characters, like all through season 1, kind of felt one-dimensional to me. But now that we're in season 3, I do feel like I'm starting to see some depth in the characters. I actually quite liked Captain Pike. I was not expecting to like him that much, but he's a cool guy. He's very, kind of Captain Kirk vibes, kind of, you know, macho man a little bit. Gosh, he's got like this snark that's a little charming, and like you can't help but like him. I gotta talk about my girl Tilly because I do love Tilly so much. There are like 2 kinds of characters in this world that I relate to, which is the smart, stoic, emotionally distant characters and the annoyingly optimistic, fun, wacky characters. And you're probably like, how can you relate to both of those? These people are polar opposites. Tilly. I'm Tilly. Cause I'm just this. Whatever this is that's happening right now, it's a Tilly moment. Like I just like have a lot of ideas. I'm smart and I know I'm smart, but I'm not always the best at voicing those ideas. And sometimes I voice them in a way that's like funny or maybe not worded in a way that's appropriate for work kind of thing. And I'm like, gosh, she's just like so optimistic and she's so excited to be on a starship and just like doing science. And I'm just like, man, I feel that. And then I guess as a segue, I will also say that we've been watching Lower Decks, and Tendi is the same way. I'm like, these smart characters who are just like, I love science and I'm happy to be here and my life is awesome. I'm like, I relate to you guys so hard. Other than that, the other characters in Lower Decks are fine for me. I think that the sense of humor just isn't for me personally. Actually, no, I take that back. Eric and I were talking about it the other day and I was like, this is not just one of those situations where the sense of humor isn't for me. Like, it's not like that Tina Fey sense of humor that just personally isn't my taste. To me, it's just like objectively not funny. Like, a lot of the jokes are really tropey or predictable, and it's like kind of a bummer. There have been a few moments that have made us like actually laugh out loud, but in general, the humor is like, it's just not great. That being said, we started season 2 recently, and I feel like the end of season 1 and the beginning of season 2, we've enjoyed more. Getting to know the characters does make certain moments funnier, but I don't love Lower Decks so far. But I'm barely into season 2, so I don't know. I'll keep you guys posted on Lower Decks and Discovery, but that's where we're at with the Star Trek. Okay, the next category on here is books. The first book that I have on here is a graphic novel series that Crystal introduced me to when we were in Seattle for a linguistics conference. It's called Heartstopper. I had heard of Heartstopper, I think before Crystal mentioned it to me. I had seen a couple like GIFs and maybe ads for the Netflix adaptation, and I was like, okay, that looks really cute. I want to read the graphic novel before I watch the show. Then I find out that Crystal's obsessed with the thing and she brought all 4 volumes to Seattle so that I could get caught up with her. It's just a little like gay romance, and that's basically it. It's about these 2 British guys who go to a boarding school and they fall in love, and you kind of follow their story. You follow the story of some of their friends, many of whom we got like a lesbian couple, we got a trans girl, we got a guy who I'm pretty sure is gonna come out as ace. I think maybe it's mentioned in one of the other books that he's ace. There's a lot of diversity in the books. The drama is so, it's like wholesome drama. You know, I hate these like romance books where people just seemingly get mad at each other for no reason. Every time there's drama, it's like a miscommunication that I'm like, yeah, I can actually understand how that would get miscommunicated. Rarely is anyone just being malicious for the sake of being malicious. Like our main character, he's got like a big secret. By the way, honestly, I'm gonna say this because I do think it's a trigger warning that I don't think a lot of people, I see people occasionally mention it, but eating disorders do start to become a pretty big plot point around the 3rd or 4th volume. So if that's something that's gonna get you in a weird headspace, be warned. I think it's handled well and stuff, especially because, I mean, it's Charlie who's struggling with an eating disorder, and we don't see that portrayed with guys very often. So that's where a lot of drama comes from, because obviously he's not ready to even admit to himself that he has a problem, much less mention it to his friends. The series is on hiatus right now, but those books are so cute, and I really want to read like more of Alice Oseman's stuff. She, outside of graphic novels, has like written novels as well, and I really want to borrow some from Crystal because I think she has like almost everything that Alice Oseman has written, and I need to borrow them from Crystal. And then I got Crystal into Percy Jackson, which has been my biggest obsession this year. I have to try so hard not to make this vlog half Percy Jackson. I started reading Percy Jackson in like 2016, I think. I read through them kind of slowly. I was like, meh, you know, whatever. These are okay, I guess. I didn't want to admit that I liked them because I went so long without reading them, like as a kid. I was like, whatever, they're fine. I finished the series and I was like, yep, those are pretty good. It's like 2019 now. I was like, yeah, those are pretty good. And then I picked up Heroes of Olympus, and I don't know what it was about the Heroes of Olympus. Yeah, I do. It was Leo. It was mostly Leo And the together Percabeth, quite frankly. The non, I like their bickering, it's cute, but man, when they're together, I love a couple that has unwavering love for each other. And Leo just being, again, he's this like wacky character, but he's also smart deep down. I'm like, I feel so seen right now. I finished Heroes of Olympus at the beginning of this year, and I was like, okay, well now I need Trials of Apollo, and guess where I am? This is a 5th book. And I'm here. I read almost all of them. I'm going to read all of them in a year. That's like super fast for me. This is a Frozen level obsession. If you know, you know. It has been like my only thought day in, day out all year. So I just like want to generally talk about like why I love these books so gosh darned much. I really love these books because they there are so many things I could say right now. They don't take themselves too seriously. They're like funny, but they are also serious when they need to be. They just, how do I say this? Maybe I'll address this more when I talk about the musical, but like they take the struggles that young kids go through seriously. I think for me, like the most important thing with the Percy Jackson series is that it has shaped who I am as a teacher, and I feel like I've changed as an instructor because of the Percy Jackson series. And like, if I ever like, it like actually makes me emotional because I feel like I was a fine teacher before. I have always done my best to like cater to my students, but the Percy Jackson series has made me view neurodiversity in a way that I had not thought of before. One thing that I think it does really well is that, yeah, so here's what I'm trying to say. I think I had this moment of realization where I kind of realized that a lot of the time you have this thing where someone has something that's a little bit different about their brain, and people will say, oh, it's like your superpower, it's like what makes you special, and like that can be true, but I think a lot of people are sick of hearing that because for a lot of people it's not a superpower. It like hinders their everyday life because the world is not catering to them. And I just had this moment where I was like, if we think about like the Lightning Thief, Percy did not unlock new superpowers because he changed as a person or because of like who he is, you know. It's not like he changed. I mean, he did change, but it's not, the message to me is not, wow, all along your ADHD was your superpower, right? The message to me as a teacher is his environment changed. He went to a place that was literally built for demigods, for people like him. And it was accommodating to him, and he excelled, and life was still hard. But it just, I don't know, it gave me this like wake-up call of like, how can I make my classroom, you know, Camp Half-Blood, how can I make my classroom accommodating and exciting and engaging to students of all kinds. This series will always be very special to me because I have like learned to care about and accommodate and advocate for my students in a way that I was not doing before. I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to the series. I could gush all day, but that's why it's special to me. Okay, next category is, why did I say category like that? That was weird. Next category is music. And the first thing I have under music is something that I technically watched in 2021, and that is Tick, Tick, Boom. Tick, Tick, Boom, I'm pretty sure came out like right at the end of 2021. It just appeared like on my Netflix recommendations, and I was like, you know what? I had heard of it because this is such a George Salazar year, isn't it? I knew George Salazar had been in it, and I was like, I'll check it out. I knew it wasn't the George Salazar performance, but hold on to George Salazar, we're coming back for him. So I was like, sure, I'll check it out. Oh my gosh, it was so good. Tick, Tick, Boom is an autobiopic. Is it pronounced biopic or biopic? I don't know. But it's a musical that Jonathan Larson wrote about Johnny, he wrote it about himself. Tick, Tick, Boom never really made it to the stage because Jonathan Larson died before it could come to fruition, I believe. And also before he got to see Rent. Just absolutely insane. He's the guy who wrote Rent. And that's kind of how they start the movie. They kind of give a recap of the story of Tick, Tick, Boom, the story of Rent, and Jonathan Larson, and how he was just gone too soon. The songs that he wrote for Tick, Tick, Boom are, again, kind of chronicling the 30th year of his life and just the feelings that he has around the idea of turning 30. The first number in the show is 3090, and it's all focused around his 30th birthday. It's about getting older, it's about being an artist, and the struggle of being discovered and being, a genius. Now, I don't know if he would say it that way, but it's the story of a guy who is really, really talented, and people just aren't putting his stuff on Broadway. They aren't believing in him. It's absolutely nuts, especially from our perspective, to be like, this is the guy who wrote Rent. Oh my gosh, put him on Broadway. He's so talented. There's romance drama, fringe drama, but all throughout it's kind of focused on this show that he's working on. In fact, that's kind of one of the problems, is that a lot of the drama in his personal life stems from the fact that he is so focused on writing the show, and he just wants to write the show and he wants it to be perfect, and he's kind of procrastinated it for way too long, and now he's kind of cramming everything. He just is not giving the attention to the people in his life that they need. I felt like I related to him a lot because I can be one of those people who gets a little too focused on work and doesn't reach out to my friends, isn't always the best at keeping up with my personal relationships, not in an artisty way, but I was like, yeah. So I watched it in 2021. I was like, that was a pretty good movie. So then I downloaded the whole soundtrack, and then I listened to it, and then I listened to it, and then I listened to it, and I could not stop listening to it for a month. It's so good, you guys. 3090. Therapy is such a funny song. Sextet, obviously. So after I listened to the soundtrack again, I fell into this huge rabbit hole. And I rewatched the movie, and you guys, Andrew Garfield does such a phenomenal job at playing Jonathan Larson. I went back and watched the original recordings, basically the only existing recordings outside of the Library of Congress of the original Tick, Tick, Boom, and it's just Jonathan Larson alone, maybe with a percussionist, on a stage playing some of the songs, and Andrew Garfield mimics his mannerisms so well. He does a fantastic job. There's a song that got deleted from the stage version called Swimming, where he's going for a swim and he has all these scattered thoughts, and there are all these different trains of thought going on at the same time that he's going back and forth between, and it wouldn't have worked on stage. Maybe that's the argument, is that it wouldn't have worked on stage, but it works really well in the movie. And Andrew Garfield, he was supposed to have a swimming double, but this guy, is an Olympically trained swimmer or something. His dad's a swim coach. So he just freaking goes on set doopy doopy doo, singing and swimming at the same time. And the swim double's I don't think my services are needed here. Andrew Garfield did a fantastic job, and he deserved a Grammy, a Tony, whatever. He didn't get it, but he deserved it. Tick, Tick, Boom, highly recommend, especially if you're a musical person. Check it out. More George Salazar, the Lightning Thief musical. Okay, I'm gonna try not to spend too much time on the Percy Jackson stuff. It's the Lightning Thief. They turned it into a musical, and I think it sounds kind of cringe at first, and it is kind of cringe. But if you embrace the cringe, you guys, it's so good. It's a rock musical. It's so Percy. It's so angsty, preteen. It's just, the music fits so well. It's all just really good. Chris McCarroll, I don't understand how he's a man in his 20s, and you see him on the stage and you're like, yeah, that's a 12-year-old. He does such a good job. Kristen Stokes, phenomenal voice. Don't even get me started on George Salazar. He's just George Salazar. Tree on the Hill is great, but I don't do great with the slow, sad songs. Drive. I will just listen to Grover's part, and then I'll be like, well, that was fun. Next. Just because George Salazar, his voice. It's so good. Oh, let me come back to what I was saying earlier about the stuff that kids go through being taken seriously. I think one of the biggest critiques that I found of when the Lightning Thief musical was on Broadway, it didn't last very long because it didn't get good criticism. I think people thought it was like a little too silly, which is like, sure, it's silly, and that's not everyone's taste. I can understand that criticism. But the other thing is, a big critique was like, oh, it's all teen angst. And I'm like, there are forms of media that are teen angst, and I don't think it's handled well. I think that the Lightning Thief musical has like the perfect amount of teen angst. These kids have been abandoned by their parents, first of all, and they don't fit in anywhere. And their lives kind of suck. What do you want them to do? They're angsty, they're teens. I don't know, I feel like if I were like a preteen and I watched that musical, I would feel so heard. I think it's beautiful. And the other thing the musical does really well is it made me way more sympathetic to Luke. When I was reading the books, I never cared much for Luke. I never got it. Like, I knew that there were some people who wanted him to be redeemed, and I was like, nah, he's a bad guy. I just don't care. But Good Night Nurse, that good kid reprise, I was like, oh, honey, can I give you a hug? I don't know, it just made me sympathetic to Luke in a way that the books never accomplished for me. If you're skeptical, if you think it's cringe, I recommend that you give the prologue / The Day I Got Expelled a try. Listen through the whole thing, it's like 7 minutes long. If it's still not your cup of tea after that, I don't know what's wrong with you. Something else, oh my goodness, something else I really liked this year was Todd the Brand. Now I talked about Todd the Brand like way back in one of my first favorite YouTubers from this year videos. Todd the Brand does music and some like parody videos on his YouTube channel. One thing that really made him blow up was his submission for the Jax Films Film Festival, which is just an earworm of a song with an absolutely nuts music video. And I just love his music. It's a little, They Might Be Giants, it's kind of quirky, often uses just kind of those basic 4 chords, so it is like poppy, and maybe that's not everyone's cup of tea or whatever, but for me it's just repetitive and poppy enough to make everything feel so freaking catchy. And he put out his first album or EP this year called Ocean Levels, and I was the first person to buy it from him on Bandcamp. He sent me an email thanking me for being the first person to buy it, and I was like, aw, seriously, support small creators, you guys, and genuinely go check out Todd the Brand stuff. I keep saying him, but it's actually 2 people. It's just that Todd, it's like tricking me. I really like California Brown. We played basketball. We took martial arts. She said cannonball. I'm more cannonball. She said it isn't a reason to go, but more of a feeling. I really like Hard to Kill. I like Heart Rate. I can promise that until my heart rate gets 65, I will stay put. I will stay alive, and you can bend it when I say that I will roll my eyes, 'cause you look different, and I'm still missing. Yeah, he's just got like, I don't know, these like fun songs. You can like, I don't know, belt them out. They were so fun to listen to, like in the summer, early fall, I think is when I downloaded the album, and I really like his album and his vibe. So check him out. He's highly underrated in my opinion. And the other like YouTube musician, not a musical, that I got really into this year was Dodie's Hot Mess EP. I liked Build a Problem enough. I think I talked about it in my previous favorites video, but goodness gracious, I just really like a Dodie EP. When anyone puts out an album, there are gonna be some misses, right? But when you put out an EP, everything's a hit. Hot Mess, so good, kind of giving me Tick Tick Boom vibes.
Countdown, happy birthday, dry heave, I am not okay, brain rot in a pretty dress. I'm a hot mess. Wake up, do the same thing.
Like, I don't know, I think it's just a countdown, happy birthday, but then also like there's kind of these like musical grand vibes with the strings. It just feels, I mean, even the comments were saying like Dodie should write a musical. I don't know, it made me think of Tick Tick Boom. But for me, the best thing from this gosh darned album is Lonely Bones. La 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 Come on. Isn't that just what did she say? A something warm soup of delicious soupy. How to make a happy soup of mixture of love and delicious music.
How to make a waltzy delicious warm soup of charm.
Got Weird is good too. No Big Deal, I Love You is good, but Lonely Bones, man. I made a Halloween playlist of like kind of creepy music and I put it on there just because it had the word bones on it. I was like, this is a stretch, but you're going on the playlist. That's the music that I've been into this year. Wow, I've been talking for a long time. My lifestyle, miscellaneous. I've got some like fashion, food, that kind of stuff. White sneakers. I noticed that white sneakers were kind of coming back, and I told Eric, I was like, I want some white sneakers, and he was like, no, you'll never wear them. They're gonna get dirty. And I set out to prove him wrong because I like the vibe. I like that they're sneakers, but they look clean and trendy, so like I can wear them with jeans, but I don't feel like frumpy when I'm wearing them just with like jeans and a t-shirt. I feel like it elevates the look. The Reebok, like it just feels retro and cute. I'm not a sneakerhead. I don't know if these are like the best option. As you can see, they already have creases and stuff, but my goal is not to keep these perfectly pristine. But I basically have just been doing my best to, you know, when it's rainy and gross outside, I won't wear these. But when it's nice outside, I will, and I'll feel cute in them. And I like these. They feel retro. Love these for like shirts, tops. I freaking love this sweater. It's like a checkered sweater. That's all there is to say. So this was something that I was also aware was coming into style, was these bold patterned sweaters. But often the bold patterns are accompanied by bold colors. And I'm like, okay, listen, I'm 28 now. I don't know, I didn't want to look like I'm like trying too hard to be trendy, right? But this, it feels trendy, but the brown, like more subdued neutral color, it still feels decently mature. So I'm super into this, and it's like the perfect level of baggy. It is a size small, just poly, and I believe I got it at Ross. That like comes down below my waist, and the sleeves go out to here probably. But this part of the sleeve has enough stretch that I can push them back when I need my hands, but also I can let it look more like a cute, chunky sweater. This one feels like a decent quality considering that I got it from Ross. So loving this. And my last fashion item is claw clips, baby. All of these things are like, can you tell that I'm happy that the early 2000s are coming back? I feel like I said something similar last year where I was just like, why are millennials complaining about fashion trends? Last year, it was straight leg jeans. And have any millennials in the comments realized the errors of your ways? Comment below. Straight leg jeans are more comfortable. I'm a millennial, but I'm just saying, like, my fellow millennials are like, oh no, the early 2000s are coming back and it's so like cringe and I'm gonna dress like a child. And I'm like, I don't know. I like the white sneakers. They make me feel nostalgic. These claw clips, quite frankly, I did not wear these as a kid. You know who wore these as a kid? My mom. So when I wear these, I don't feel like a little kid. I feel like my mom. I'm like, wow, I feel really mature with this claw clip in my hair. So I've had this one for a while. I used to have a brown one, but I put it in my suitcase and it got crushed. You gotta be careful with these. Now when I go traveling, I make sure to put it on the outside of my backpack so I can pay more attention to whether or not it's getting crushed. And I recently bought some smaller ones, which not only are cute, but they're practical because my hair is getting so long. When I want to pull it half up, half down, a ponytail is so inconvenient to weave half your hair through the ponytail without trying to get like other parts of your hair caught up in it. I can pull my hair back so much faster with this bad boy. And I also got this one because I just think the clear aesthetic is so cute, very Y2K. I don't know if I'll wear it all that often, probably when I'm just feeling like a little bit trendier, but I really like this. I'm very into the claw clips. Okay, I do have one food item on the lifestyle list, and that is the Gardein veggie chili. I am a fan of canned chili. I grew up on Wolf brand chili. It was like actually one of my favorite like easy, quick meals. For a while, Hormel had, I think, a meatless chili. I don't think it had like a replacement meat. I think it was just just beans. And they got rid of that, and I was so bummed. One day I noticed that there was a Gardein veggie chili. I like the one with beans because I like beans in my chili. I know that's a hot take, but I do. If you're a vegetarian and you were not aware of this, check the canned meat aisle. I think some stores put it in the canned meat aisle because they either just don't know where else to put it, or maybe it's kind of like a ploy to get meat eaters to go, maybe I'll do a meatless Monday, you know, kind of thing. I don't have a problem with them being in the canned meat aisle, but I do think they flew under my radar for a while because, like, I'm not looking at the manwich. Honestly, like, I don't even know if I can say, like, oh, you can tell it's not real meat because, like, have you had canned chili? You know what I mean? It's like corn dogs. It's like, it's all fake meat. Even the real meat is so processed beyond recognition. So whether you eat meat or don't, check out the Gardein plant-based chili. It's so good. Yeah, and the last thing I have under lifestyle is flossing. Yeah, I don't have any good like beauty, like makeup or anything that I really discovered this year. So the only thing that I could think of in terms of lifestyle and beauty kind of stuff is I actually started flossing this year. And I'm hopefully if I put this in a video, I will feel the need to like continue flossing. But you know, like how your dentist always says you need to floss and you're like, and then you don't. Yeah, they're right. I hate when like people tell you something and then they're actually right. My teeth grow too close together. I'm gonna have to get Invisalign or something eventually. But because of that, some of my teeth are starting to like push up into my gums and it's making them sore. And I was like, okay, my gums are sore because my teeth are moving around. And my dentist was like, well, yeah, but also because your teeth are moving around, they're like more prone to bacterial infection. So if you floss your teeth, they're not gonna get as sore because the bacteria isn't gonna be infecting them. And I'm like, oh my, that makes sense. So I started freaking flossing my teeth like every other night, and it gets easier the more you do it. Just floss. What I'm trying to say, the reason I put this here is because I feel like maybe someone watching this video needs a sign to start flossing your teeth. I know I did. If you are looking for that sign to like genuinely start taking it seriously, floss your teeth, maybe make it your New Year's resolution, this is your sign. Floss your gosh darn teeth. Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But these are like the things that I enjoyed the most this year. Oh yeah, the other thing with Percy Jackson is the TV show. How could I forget? That's the other reason that I got really obsessed with this year. It's just there's a lot of hype around the TV show. Anyway, but yeah, I'm curious about you guys. What did you enjoy this year in terms of movies, shows, books, music, food, whatever? Leave a comment with, you know, some of your favorite things. I don't know if I'll upload again within 2022. Depends on how quickly I can get out my top YouTubers video. So you can look forward to that, and you can look forward to seeing me in a new place. If I don't make another video before 2023, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your year and a great start to the new year. Thanks for sticking with me throughout this kind of weird year. And thanks again for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.